All right, let's talk about the new follow-ups feature that we've added to all workflow campaigns and also to broadcast campaigns. And it's important to, again, break down the difference between broadcast and workflow in the context of follow-ups because they are different use cases. Let's say someone comes to your website. Now let's go to ours. At the very bottom of our site, we've got a form fill. What follow-ups feature allows you to do is it allows you to add anyone who fills out this form, right, into a workflow campaign. And you can tell the workflow campaign that every time someone fills out this form, I want you to add that lead to a workflow. And inside of that workflow, I want to have Pitchit's follow-up features turned on, meaning that you will have trained an AI agent to take every lead from this form fill and contact them up to 10 times and only within specific call windows. So 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., for example, and only within certain days of the week, maybe when your call center or sales team is available. So we could say Monday through Friday, for example, right? And you want to give that AI agent the ability to book meetings onto calendars. Those are all things that you can now tell the workflow to do inside of the follow-ups feature. And so we'll run through that exact use case by rebuilding the website form fill workflow we have in this dummy account, and we'll build it again together. Broadcast is a little different. So it's the same in that the follow-ups feature still works the same, but it's different in that broadcast campaigns aren't for taking leads that come in real time and in real time starting the follow-up outreach. We call them SLA. So basically starting the sales process in real time because they filled out the form in real time. Broadcast is different though because it's a sheet. So you're basically uploading a file of people that you want us to execute this SLA on immediately, right? And so you're saying, I have this list of, let's say, 1,000 people. I'm going to load them into a broadcast campaign. And this broadcast campaign, the AI agent's going to follow up with every one of these leads 10 times, but no more than 4 times a day, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to noon. And it would execute that exact SLA using the follow-ups feature at the maximum throughput possible, all the way up to that entire list of, let's say, 1,000 people, right? And it would guarantee TCPA compliance all throughout. So that's the power of follow-ups, is that it can execute these types of workflows and broadcast SLAs, but also be TCPA compliant along the way. And so if during your follow-ups feature for the workflow campaign, someone has given you consent to contact them, if at some point in that sequence of activities that the AI agent is performing, let's say attempt number 6, in text message, they say, stop calling me, right? Stop texting me, stop contacting me. Pitchit will then unsubscribe them from all channels immediately per TCPA rules, and it will document the entire journey from touch point 1 through 7, why you talked to them, when they unsubscribed, all the comments and recordings of the conversations you've had, plus an AI summary of how that conversation went all the way up to attempt number 7. In the event that that person ever wanted to sue you for breaking their privacy rules or breaking TCPA and contacting them 7 times, Pitchit would have all of the information your company needs to protect yourself in that lawsuit because you will have actually followed all TCPA laws all the way up to that 7th attempt. And so you've done nothing legally wrong here at all. They've just revoked consent, and that is what it is. And they were removed immediately. So that's what's great about follow-ups features, is it takes the workflow that a human is doing today and it completely automates it. It takes the legal risk that we're all operating inside of today, and it completely reduces that risk to the lowest level of risk you can possibly have. And it takes systems of records like CRMs, like Salesforce or HubSpot or Go High Level, where we traditionally did these workflows, and it actually gives those workflows a brain, right? So they're no longer just if this, then that workflows and automations. Like robotic process automation, RPA is what we call it. It's now intelligent. So LLMs and AI are actually powering all of these conversations through and through. So while we're building the campaigns, I'll get into some of the cool things that can happen in a workflow. But long story short, that's the nice preface. And so what we're going to do is we're going to build the first one, a workflow. Let's call this Pitchit website form fill. Add lead to workflow. So I like to give descriptive campaign names so that my team and I know what this campaign is designed to do. Let's say, let's just use like sample copy, right? Whatever, sample copy. Move on. The Zapier Zap is an important thing to include here, but we're going to skip this part because we don't need to redo any of the Zaps. The Zaps will work exactly as they were before. Every lead that comes into my Pitchit account will automatically be added to the workflow, so I don't actually need to change the Zap. But if you guys want to see how to change the Zap, there are other videos on how to do that. Today's focus, we're going to just talk about workflow campaigns. Next thing, so the communications channels that you want to use, I'm just going to turn all of them on for the purposes of today's demo. I'm going to put a sample SID in here. I'm going to take this sample copy and just kind of send it all throughout. This is not going to be an actual live campaign because this is all just like dummy data and copy that's not even real. But I'm doing it just to get all the checkboxes and get through the campaign build process in real time. So what we're basically telling the AI agent here is every time someone hits this form fill, I want you to add them to this workflow where you're given access to my WhatsApp, email, and SMS account to represent my company. On each of these channels, I do or do not. In this case, I do want you to be able to book meetings on my calendar, right? And just quick reminder, I'm going to save the campaign real quick. The calendar that it books the meetings onto is the one you synced in your profile. So you click your name, account settings, it's this calendar. And what you'll see is this is not my actual calendar. This is an alias sales calendar that only the AI uses to know when to outbound dial people at the predetermined time. And so what I'm doing in this workflow is I'm telling this AI agent that no human's going to be involved. No human will show up to this meeting. You're going to show up to this meeting and you're going to call this person at this time if they choose to book a meeting with the booking link. And if they pick up the phone at that time, you're going to screen them and then transfer them to an actual human in the loop only if they make it through the screening outbound process, right? And so turning that on basically gives another option for the recipient to book meetings, and it's a really powerful thing to allow them to do. Next step is where we actually give the AI agent the SLA. So do you want follow-ups? No? Okay. Hit Pitchit, and it will do one attempt, basically one outreach attempt per channel. And in this case, it was SMS, WhatsApp, and email, right? But if you do want follow-ups, you turn it on, and by default, it's on. In this case, you just tell the AI agent what days you want them doing their outreach. And so a lot of times what companies will do is they will choose the same dates that their call center will be available and working, so that if the Pitchit AI agent does get a person on the phone and screened and transferred in, that there's actually a human on your end who could pick up the phone and close the deal, right? And so a lot of times they will copy basically their office hours into the SLA. But there's other use cases where maybe you don't want to do that, right? So maybe you want Monday, Wednesday only for whatever reason. And even though you're open from 9 to 5, let's say you only want the calls to go out from 11 to, let's say, 3 p.m., right? That's fine. You can do that. And in this case, we're just going to make something custom. Monday and Wednesday only, 11 to 3 p.m. And let's say I want 2 attempts, but no more than, let's do 4 attempts, but no more than 2 a day, okay? What this is saying is that it's going to, Monday and Wednesday only, from 11 to 3 p.m. only, call every lead who comes through this form fill, right? Text every lead, WhatsApp message every lead, and email every lead if needed. 4 total times per channel. So that's a total in this case of 16 attempts, 4 voice attempts, 4 text message attempts, 4 email attempts, and 4 WhatsApp attempts. But it will do no more than 2 attempts per day. And so 1 attempt, let's just assume the first one would be at 11, and then the final one right around 3. It's going to spread it out per these rules. It says every 4 hours is the minimum amount of time between attempts, right? And the max allowed difference between the two is 23 hours. And so you couldn't say make 2 attempts, right, but no more than 1 a day, and then only give us 1 day, because that means it would be basically an entire week in between each attempt. Only 1 attempt per day, Monday, and then the second attempt on the following Monday. That's beyond 23 hours, right? So you're basically given some rules around how you can determine these SLAs. And this is, again, just to keep you TCPA compliant, right? We're trying to limit the amount of times you can contact someone to reduce the legal risk of someone being offended and you breaking TCPA laws in really kind of over contacting them, right? And so we built some of these rules into it, hard-coded them in. But long story short, let's do this SLA. And I'm going to change it to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I'm going to say 10 attempts, but no more than 2 a day. And I like this one because it shows all of the capabilities of Pitchit, but also it allows the entire week to be an active life cycle for the recipient, because you're doing 2 attempts on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday, and 2 on Friday to complete the 10 total attempts. And you're given a lot of working hours to do it. And so what Pitchit's going to do is the AI agent is going to make contacts in that exact SLA, but it's going to spread the attempts all throughout this working hour time slot in order to make sure that you don't have lumpy results where like a ton of leads come in at 9 and then nothing until 2 p.m. when the second attempt goes out. It's going to try to spread this all out. And we have an algorithm that runs that effectively just says, okay, let's divide the day evenly so that we have a nice blend of attempts going all throughout the day, depending on the working hours, follow-up limits, and daily limits that you give us. That algorithm is going to execute. And so long story short, it then lets you tell us the follow-up copy. And so we already put the original copy in. And in my example, it was just some dummy copy, and it's totally irrelevant. But let's assume that that copy was something like, hey, is there a good day and time for us to call you and talk about the product you've asked for pricing on, right? Let's assume that person doesn't reply, okay? And we wrote to them Monday morning at 9 a.m. Well, the next second attempt, according to this SLA, has to be in the afternoon sometime before 3 p.m., but no less than 4 hours after the first attempt. So let's say the first attempt went out at 9. That means that starting at 1 p.m., between 1 and 3 p.m., the second attempt on Monday is going to go out. And since that recipient never replied to the first attempt, they didn't reply in WhatsApp, email, SMS, or voice, we need to do a second attempt to see if we can get a reply. And instead of just pasting the exact same answer, the exact same message and hoping that they reply this time, which is how most CRMs are designed, where you like hard code in the copy and it just repeatedly writes that copy. Hey, I wanted to see if we could talk. Hey, you didn't reply. Can we talk? Hey, you didn't reply. Can we talk? Over and over and over again. It doesn't have a brain, so it just pastes in whatever you hard coded it in to do on attempt 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Pitchit's a little different. So what you're saying here is you're going to give it a little bit of a segue. So something like just following up. That's basically all you give the AI in this use case. Something that's under 320 characters in WhatsApp. A huge amount of characters in email are available. And then SMS is the most limiting, under 32 characters, right? We do this to make sure, again, some of this is TCPA. So SMS, we don't want it to be broken into multiple text messages. So we try to keep it onto one text message when we're sending the follow-up attempts so that it looks really nice when the recipient sees it. And so we have some limits built into SMS in that way. It also keeps whatever charges they might get as a recipient to a very low level, because you don't want to send 3 or 4 text messages with a really long message and then the recipient to get billed for all of those attempts, right? And so we've built some of that into this logic. And then we've also built in some things like terms of use with WhatsApp and what they're limiting you on. So 320 is the character limit there. And then email, one of the least regulated channels, 38,000 characters, is basically no limit, right? In that case. And so you'll write your follow-up. And the way this works is the follow-up copy you give Pitchit in this stage gets appended before whatever the AI would choose to use to try to restart that conversation, right? So let's go back again and let's look at this copy. So it's saying, hello, it's company name. We noticed you submitted our form requesting a quote for product XYZ. Have you found a new provider yet, right? So that was the original copy. In this example, what we're saying is they didn't reply. So come up with another message to send them, but start the conversation with just following up, right? You can do that, right? This is what Pitchit allows you to do. It allows you to provide at least a kind of segue copy to get the conversation started, and then AI will take it from there. So whatever you put into here, it could be 320 characters for WhatsApp, 38,000 for email, or 32 for SMS. Whatever you put in here will be hard-coded into our follow-up attempts, but then AI has the ability to change everything after that attempt, right? And a good example of when AI would take over is if the recipient did in fact reply to earlier attempts, but maybe they didn't book the meeting or opt out or end up converting, right? And so AI could see that person X replied with, yeah, I'm free to meet. Can we talk tomorrow? But then the AI said, sure, what time? And then they never replied, right? So the AI never booked a meeting because we didn't know what time they wanted to meet. And so what happened is the next day, since we didn't have a booked meeting, the AI is going to write and it's going to say, just following up. And then after that, the AI will likely say something like, we were about to book a meeting yesterday, but you never told me the time. Can you tell me a good time we can call you today? And then it would have, because we chose to have booking links, right? It would then have the booking link. So if the person doesn't want to reply with a time, like 3 p.m. when they'd be free, they could at least also have the option of clicking the link and just booking it and making it easy for the AI. But if that recipient does start replying and says, yeah, oh yeah, you're right, I forgot to reply. Thanks for following up. I'm free 3 p.m. Then the AI would say something immediately like, well, what time zone? 3 p.m. Central, Pacific, Eastern? And they could say Eastern, and then the meeting will get booked at 3 p.m. Eastern, and the AI would call them out. They would call them, outbound dial them at 3 p.m. Eastern, screen them with the AI agent's scripts and SLAs, and then transfer them to your human in the loop, all while having used zero human labor all throughout, right? And so this is basically what follow-ups is designed to do end to end. Once you are happy with this copy, you click Pitchit, and then the campaign's effectively live. Now, I'm going to stop it because I actually don't want to use this sample copy, but you get the point from that workflow creation. So that's how you basically create follow-ups inside of a workflow. Inside a broadcast, it's really similar. The only difference is that there's no Zapier connection step. So I'm going to do a test campaign real quick. We'll do another test copy. And I've already used that name too many times, so let's do another made-up name. Now, the only difference is in workflows, this was where we had to add a Zapier connection. So we had to like hook up a form fill, for example, to the workflow campaign. Inside of broadcast campaigns, though, you load up a list. And so that's the only difference. I'm going to choose kind of one of these like predefined lists from our samples, and I'm going to hit process. It's going to process all 9 of those people. It'll kick out any emails or phone numbers that look like they're no longer alive, like they look like they'd bounce or they're dead. And it would kick those out of the final list. And then it would say, here's all the channels available, right? And so you don't have enough phone numbers on this list to do WhatsApp or SMS, but you do have emails. And so you could do 9 emails. It'll recommend which channels. I'm just going to force it to do all 3 in this example because this is not something that's actually going to go live. So it doesn't really matter, just for demonstrative purposes. Then I'm going to go to next steps. This is going to look familiar. It's the exact same. Choose the days of the week when AI is allowed to make those dials, those outbound attempts. Choose the working hours. We'll just keep with 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Choose the number of follow-up attempts. This can be any number 1 to 10. And choose the daily limit, so how many attempts per 24-hour days. As you can see, 7 and 8 and 9 are grayed out because you've only done 6 attempts. So the most you can do in a day is 6. But you'd better have a long day because you would need 4 hours between each attempt, right? And so this would need to be something like midnight to noon, and that way it would work, right? And so since that won't work, I'm just going to move it down to 3 a day. And then it should be able to do 6 attempts in 3 days, 6 attempts but no more than 3 a day, which means that you would have the entire list having been completed in just 2 days. So you'd load up 9 people, and all 9 of them would get 3 attempts on Monday and 3 on Tuesday. And by Tuesday at 5 p.m., all 9 you will have guaranteed that SLA is finished for all of them, right? Another example, just following up, right? You can get creative with this stuff. I'm just trying to get through this as a demonstration. Not that this is a bad thing. It's actually a decent segue copy to put into your follow-ups. I'm just saying for whatever campaigns you're doing, it may or may not be relevant. And then you'll click send immediately, or you can schedule it for later. So that's what's different between broadcast and workflow. Is broadcast lets you load a list up. Workflow asks you to hook up in Zapier to hook up a source of the leads. And then the final difference is the sender schedule. So in workflow, it just goes live right now, and it's ready to receive any lead in real time from form fills, CRMs, any source, advertising campaigns, etc. But in broadcast, you either send it immediately to everyone in the SLA and they all start that SLA right away, or you schedule it for a later date right? And so since this SLA said Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 6 attempts, but no more than 3 a day. If I start this SLA next Monday at 9, then all 9 of those people will effectively have their very first outbound attempt from this broadcast campaign next Monday at 9 a.m. And that is when the first 3 attempts will go out next Monday, and then the next 3 attempts will go out the following Tuesday. If you click Pitchit, it goes live. Now, I don't want to send this message out. It was just a dummy campaign, so I'm going to delete it. But long story short, if you would have clicked send, it would have basically scheduled it out to go next Monday. So without further ado, that is how to use follow-up campaigns, how to build them into workflow and broadcast campaigns, and what kinds of use cases it can allow you to now support inside of Pitchit. We're super excited about this feature. It was a long time coming. Thank you to all the clients who gave us feedback on helping us design the user experience. I really appreciate it, and I hope that all of you enjoy. Thanks.